watching. I'm going to get right into this video. So a lot of you guys have been tagging me and sending me emails and everything about the whole Wes and Billy Carson so-called debate video or what have you. So yeah, watch the whole video, 2 hours. If you guys haven't seen the video, make sure you guys see the video before you watch this. Pretty good conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it. The moderator kind of messed it up a lot, butting in and everything like that, but for good reasons, towards the end. But I'm going to talk about it since people are asking my opinion about it. So, first off, props to Wes for putting Billy Carson in his place and basically exposing what everybody else who is any kind of a decent scholar can see. I mean, the guy just talks about stuff with absolutely no proof. I mean, he just says things and it's like, believe it. He says things that sounds intelligent to some people and it's just like, it is what it is. And a lot of times it's because, the stuff he's talking about or the manuscripts or documents he's referencing has a, funny name or hard to spell name, or when you get to it, it's in a different language that a lot of people can't read or the average person can't read, but I'm not the average person. Neither is Wes, obviously. Anybody that's a scholar, anybody who reads multiple languages, if you can read, the Greek and the Hebrew, what have you, Latin, then you can understand a lot of these manuscripts and what's being said. For people who don't know me, I myself, I'm ex-military, traveled the world when I got out of the military. I traveled while I was in the military, but when I got out, I really traveled. I've been doing research in ancient history, religion, and all that for over 2 decades now. A lot of work. Basically the same story as these guys, traveling the world, studying, so on and so forth. I've been everywhere, you name it, I've probably been there. So, I grew up in church, been researching religion. I'm basically the opposite of C.S. Lewis. I grew up in church. My uncle was a preacher, and I set out to basically prove the Bible was true. And in my research, I realized that it's not, and I, come to the understanding of what it actually is. So now, with Billy Carson, you can see with Wes, him having this knowledge and him basically backing down Billy Carson away from all the, Anunnaki nonsense and the Jesus alien and all the other nonsense he's speaking about. He backed him away from it and basically forced him to get defensive. At times, you can see he was frustrated. And it forced him to really go into some real information. I'm speaking about the Dogon. That's something you can't deny with the Dogon because they spoke about things they shouldn't have known about. Also, really, he attacked the text and basically was attacking internal things. Ephesians 6:5 and everything, the slave trade and everything that happened with that. Bible condoning slavery, so on and so forth. And he really started to attack the Bible the way he should have attacked it from the beginning versus all of this other stuff to basically sell books with the Anunnaki lies and everything like that. Because, anybody, if you read Arcadian cuneiform, if you understand, first of all, we don't have no emerald tablets. Ask somebody who speaks of the emerald tablets to show you the emerald tablets. They don't exist. We don't have them. There's very few people who can read Sumerian on the planet, and they'll tell you that such a thing in the story is just not true. So you can get into all that if you want. If you do the extra research, you'll come to the same conclusion. It's done. As I talked about before with Zechariah Stitchin, a man who basically put this stuff out, to sell books. I'm not going to get too deep into all that, but it's up to you guys to do the research on this whole Anunnaki Sumerian thing. It's just not believable to anybody who does actual research. Now, going back to Wes, most of you Christians and people will look at it and say, here's a guy who studies the manuscripts. Here's a guy who's done research. This guy is, he does this thing. He goes even as far as to write copy his own manuscripts himself and everything like that. Dope, cool, right? Here's the thing. So the truth about all this is it doesn't matter how many manuscripts you copy or you study because there are thousands of them, right? Bunch of the ancient manuscripts. And the thing is, one, no matter how many you study or what you come to the conclusion of, because here's the thing with people who study manuscripts and does this research into these ancient texts and manuscripts, they're going to come to the conclusion that, one, these manuscripts are real, right? This is the only conclusion they can come to, that the manuscript is real. Someone wrote it. It is not a new manuscript. It's not a forgery like what he was talking about where, somebody had basically copied from an online PDF and, try to make it as an actual manuscript on old, vellum or what have you, papyri. It's not the case. these guys, they do the research and they can see, hey, this was written, it's correct, the age is correct, the time frame is correct. This is an actual manuscript written by someone, a scribe or what have you, copied from another copy, and so on and so forth. This is the conclusion they can come to. And based off of those conclusions and some other research they do, they believe that the manuscript, the text or what have you is true, right? This is what they're basing their religion off. I can go and I can see that this scholar backs this manuscript, this scholar backs this manuscript, this scholar is saying that this manuscript is true, right? And the thing is, none of them, no researcher, no scholar, no scientist or what have you, can prove that any of the manuscripts that we have in our possession goes back or was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, or any other prophets that existed, or the Bible gives claim to have written these manuscripts, right? We can't prove Paul actually existed. Now, I know a lot of people go and say, hey, well, there's a lot of evidence, and every scholar believes Paul actually existed. There's a lot of evidence that Paul existed. There's a lot of evidence that Jesus existed. There's no proof, right? You can have evidence that a person committed a crime, but when you go into the court of law, he can be found not guilty. Why? Because the evidence doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It doesn't hold up to cross-examination. There is simply not enough evidence to prove that Paul actually existed, right? Existed, I should say. So you can go to, they said they found some bones. There's no proof that it goes back to the biblical Paul. You understand what I'm saying? Nothing that they're finding that you're going to be able to trace back to these biblical characters in proof. So no matter what Wes or any other scholar says, including myself, as far as any historicity of the Bible, because I'm not going to give you anything to say that these people existed because I don't believe in it. But what I'm going to say is do your own research and come to this conclusion as well, that no matter what you find, there is not going to be any proof that's going to tie whatever manuscript you're reading, whatever documents you got your hands on, it's not going to tie it back to any biblical characters. There's no proof of that. So at the end of the day, no matter what Wes or anybody else says, there's an element of faith and belief that you must have to move forward. So this is where critical thinking comes into play, because, you know, a lot of stuff that was said in this video, to a lot of people, it may sound, you know, super intelligent or shocking or what have you. There's absolutely no critical thinking that was going on here. And it wasn't done correctly. The moderator was butting in. It's just like, I don't understand what was the purpose and point of this if it wasn't going to be any structure to it. But nonetheless, you know, Wes won this thing because he was just more on point as far as what he was saying and far as exposing Billy Carson. But what I disagree with him on is just, you know, the fact that if he believes that because he's done this research in these manuscripts, what have you, and all these scholars all over the world, the research they have done gives them, you know, to them proof in the Bible as far as it being true, you know, the accounts and what have you, as it being actual world history. And this is something that you have to think for yourself as to what you want to believe in and have faith in. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're walking away with. You're not walking away with no proof. This man didn't come on here and give you actual proof that the Bible is true. He gave you his account based off of his research. And this is what you're going to find when you do your own research, that every other scholar is going to come to the same conclusion. There's absolutely no proof. You're going to have faith and belief, right? That's what religion is based on, faith and belief. Why? Because there's no proof. If it was proof, you wouldn't have to have faith. You wouldn't need to believe. We would just all know and understand, and you can prove it, right? Prove it. We can't do that to this day. So when you go and look at history, one, you're going to see we have the Septuagint, right? And this is basically what we know as the, you know, oldest manuscript as far as giving us our inception of biblical text, right? Septuagint means 70. And it, you know, goes back to the letters of Orestes, if you want to get into the whole thing, which the letters of Orestes has also been proven to be a fallacy. So the letters of Orestes basically is talking about Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who basically commissioned these 72 Hebrew elders to give us a translation of the Hebrew law, right, into Greek. And as any, you know, Jewish scholar tell you, they would have never did any such thing. These Hebrew elders would not have done such a translation. The only proof of this we have, which is not proof, they say it's proof, is LXX, is the letters of Orestes, and this is what they're using. And it just, if you go and read it, it just conflicts with what we know the Greeks were doing during this time, as far as, you know, the concessions they gave to the Jews or what have you. They would not have done that. So you read it yourself, but it's another text that has been proven to be a forgery, or is, you know, the consensus is it is a forgery. You know, nonetheless, nonetheless, we have the Septuagint Greek, right? And we can basically give that, you know, we can basically give that basically as the beginning of all biblical texts from there. Because the Septuagint, you know, we get the Syriac Peshitta, we know about St. Jerome and the Latin Vulgate, the Venus Latina, or what have you. And they have the Septuagint in it. And as I stated before, you know, St. Jerome basically, and everybody talks about this, basically changed the Septuagint when he created these manuscripts or what have you. And the one that they're talking about, and this is again where we get into the Billy Carson thing, the deception. And I'm calling it the Sinai Bible. The whole time this dude is talking about Codex Sinaiticus. If you watch my videos, you know I did a whole thing on Codex Sinaiticus. I read Greek, I read Hebrew, and a bunch of other stuff. But this is where I disagree with Wes. And Wes said a couple of times that the you know, Codex Sinaiticus is basically the same as what we have today, and it's not. It's just not. So I don't know if he understand or misspoke, or what exactly was he talking about. If you go online to Codex Sinaiticus site, one, you can look at it and just believe what's over there on a little panel. But if you actually read Greek, do you understand? One, I pointed out there's a bunch of mistakes in the manuscripts. So that's one. It's a bunch of mistakes right off the bat when you start reading, especially Mark. I broke down Mark in one of my videos.
Okay, so we are at the website for Codex Sinaiticus. Now, you can go online for yourself. You can look at this manuscript and you can go through it. But I recommend that you know some Greek, because if you're just going to go here and accept what they're telling you, then you might as well just read an English translation or a King James Bible, because if you don't know any Greek, you're not going to realize how many mistakes and errors are in this manuscript, especially if you're one of those people who believe this is the infallible, inerrant, without errors, infallible word of God, which we know it's not. So you should definitely know some Greek before you just take their word for it, because they lie. Now, right off the bat, we can see that it says the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is Mark. I chose Mark because Mark is our earliest gospel. It's the earliest gospel that we have. It's Mark. So Jesus Christ's name should appear in here. But as I said, you won't find Jesus, you won't find Christ, you won't find Christian. What you will find is basically their abbreviation of Jesus Christ. So basically, if you spell Jesus Christ in Greek, Jesus would start with an I and with a U, start with an X and with a U, or it can end with an O or an S. I've seen it end in different things. There's different ways you can write Jesus Christ. But what they did was they basically put the I in the U and the X in the U, which will look like Y's. That's what they put in the manuscript instead of Jesus Christ. So if you don't know about Jesus Christ, you would not know that that was his name. I'm going to explain to you later why his name is not in here and why they put that bull crap in here. So, let's get into the manuscript. But you got to understand that this was written hundreds of years before the English language was invented. So way before English even came about, they wrote this thing. So a lot of the letters you're going to see, they're not what you think they are. This is way before English. What they basically did with this manuscript was they took high quality photos and they digitized the whole thing and put it online. And I believe it's the only one of the four great unseals that you can actually go through and look at online. Now, I started off Kata Markan. Kata, according to Markan, Mark. So right off the bat, we missing a H. It would be an E, but it looks like an H. That's not here. It's already a mistake. So we got A. This is a R, not a P. This is CH, not an X. This is a E. Looks like an H, but it's actually a E. TOU. Remember, no Y's in Greek. This is also a E. Now, this is an E, this is a E, but they make different sounds. This is epsilon, this is iate or iatai. We got a U, we got an A, G, G, two G's, E, L, I, O, U. Stop. This is where Jesus Christ's name should be. But as I said, they put basically a I, U, X, U to abbreviate Jesus Christ, which I think is weird. So, it says the beginning of the gospel of supposed to be Jesus Christ. Weird, because you're supposed to be able to call out in the name of Jesus. Jesus Christ this, Jesus that. So to not put his name in here is weird. It's weird, suspect. We're going to explain that later. But let me go through this manuscript a little bit more and show you. Because in some cases, you won't find this. Where Jesus' name is supposed to be at, you won't find nothing sometimes. Or you won't find this at all. So their excuse that, it's just an abbreviation, is if you abbreviate, Jesus Christ. I mean, if you do it, this is supposed to be all uppercase letters, no lowercase. Now, if you do it lowercase, it would look different. It would be different from what we see here. But this is all uppercase. Now, if you go look at, because I translated this thing for you so we can see. Now, this is what it says, Jesus Christ. This is how Jesus Christ should look. Now, if you write it the normal way, Jesus, as we know, ends with an S, and it can end with a U, Christ. I mean, like I said, Jesus can also end with a U as well. This can end with an S as well. So basically what they did was you have the I, and it should be an S, but you have the U, so we can leave it right here. So we have IU, what they have, IU. Then we have XY, or XU. So this is what they're saying. Even though it's a lot of different names, you can spell it. Now, verse 2 starts here. Now, verse 2 is, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet. I'm going to start off with that because this is all, kind of screwed up. This is wrong right off the bat. Now, written as it is, written will be right here. I mean, it's almost correct, but it's wrong. Written in Greek will be grapto, or be graptos. And this is a G, R, A. This is a P. Now, this is off right here. It should be TOS here. We got the TAI. But graptos will be written. But when it connecting words, sometimes it's wrote different, but the scribe messed up here is already, it's mistakes. Now, this don't make no sense here. And we got Isaiah right here. Now, this is another mistake. This is supposed to be in all capital letters. This entire manuscript. It's written as scripto continua. It's called scripto continua. All capital letters. Some words can start on one line, end on another, and that's basically what that means. So, believe it or not, if you spell Isaiah with a capital I and everything else lowercase, it would start with an H. It will look like an H or E. So remember I said E is Ayate or Ayatai. So we got Aya for Isaiah. But it looked like they tried to put a lowercase, maybe a lowercase S here, which should be here since this H is here, not an I. Here again, where Jesus' name should appear, which is right around here, we don't see it. It's not there. Not the whole abbreviation thing like they gave us, the whole explanation for the IYXY. Where is it? It's not here. It's not in here. So, I mean, this is already just screwed up from, right off the bat. And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came. I mean, it don't even say that here. You got Kai. So you see we got Kai here. We can match that up. Kai. But everything else is, this is kind of messed up. So I see the word done, which this would be done in English. Done, D-O-N-E. And, I typed this thing out so you can see what it should look like. And we obviously see that it doesn't look like that. See, we got Kai. The only words, those days almost match up, but you can see the HME, HME, P, which would be an R actually, but the ES, this is an S, an uppercase S, not here. We're gonna go to Acts, and I'm at the end of Acts, chapter 6 actually, and this is one of the places where you will not find Jesus or Jesus Christ at all, where it's supposed to be. Now you'll find this a few times all throughout this manuscript. You'll see things like this. So a lot of the excuses I get from some Christians who actually study the codexes is, oh well, they abbreviated his name, and that's what Jesus Christ's name was supposed to be, and they just abbreviated, but you won't find it everywhere. It's just missing in a lot of places. Or you won't find the IYXY. You'll find something else there. So it's like, how many abbreviations can you abbreviate Jesus Christ? I mean, it's just weird. So we go here, we find that Acts 6:14, for we have heard him say that this Jesus, right? So I mean, let's click here, make sure we're in the right place. Yeah, boom, it highlights. Now understand this. This verse is supposed to stop here. So 6:14 is all this right here. Then 15 starts right here with the Kai. So if we click on it, boom, you see it a highlight right down here. 7:1, boom, way down here. So let's just so you can understand where we at and where you should see Jesus Christ's name. It's not here at all. Nothing is here. This is all gibberish. I mean, you can barely make out words here. I mean, it's faded a little, but not that much where you should really be able to recognize the IYXY. It's not here at all. No IC, nothing. So Jesus Christ's name should appear right around here, not here.
But what I do respect is just any Bible believer coming out and using, facts, references, right? And it was kind of a condescending way he was speaking to Billy and kind of, exposing him. You can do the same thing to Wes, because it's like, dude, even what he's saying about the biblical text, and then it just kills me when people that are seemingly super intelligent believes in such utter nonsense, right? Because even if, you sound intelligent, you sound smart, you're doing all this research and everything like that, and every bit of research, and he knows this in his heart, every bit of research that you're doing does not lead back to any truth in biblical history. And in biblical history only exists within the Bible. It's not proven history. It's not real history and life and reality. So now let's really go deep into this, right? Let's get really accurate, right? So the problem is this. A lot of you guys don't understand the basis or the rules in which researchers are using everything we're talking about, everything we use as far as evidence, artifacts, and everything else. Manuscripts, all the stuff Wes is talking about, everything that Billy's talking about. What is the consensus? What is the main thing that researchers, scientists are using to determine what is true and what is not, right? Because as I said, when you come to the conclusion, like with Wes and the manuscripts or any biblical scholar who is looking at what we have as far as evidence for the Bible's truth or proof of Jesus or what have you, at the end of the day, when they gather all their information, they're still going to need faith to go forward. Understand what I'm saying? Because they're going to end with their research. They're going to end with that. There's no further that they can go. They can't use this evidence to put it into a realm that's going to be able to take us further with this research or their findings to give us a truth, right? So what am I talking about here, right? So I'm talking about understanding what is the main thing being used. What is the, if I want to prove something is right, I'm going to take it to this expert, and this expert is going to use this to prove that it's true, right? And it's the consensus on all the researchers, right? So understand, one, you're going to see a lot of stuff like this. If you actually go on Google, We're going to use Google because I want you guys to use stuff that you're familiar with to help you along here. So if you was to Google, is there evidence for the Bible, right? Is the history of the Bible true? A lot of times you'll see stuff or you'll read stuff that's all over the internet. Yes, the Bible is historically accurate, right? There is evidence for the Bible. There's evidence for Jesus, right? Evidence, right? But as I say this all the time, you have evidence, but it cannot be proven evidence. Or in the research world, we'll say verifiable evidence, right? So that's evidence that you have that you can go and determine is true based off that evidence, right? This is why they say we have evidence. They don't say we have truth, we have proof, we have evidence, right? So understand what they use in this field of research is empirical research, right? Google it yourself. Empirical research, but we're going to go through it. I'm going to show you what it is. So empirical research is the basis on which researchers, scientists use to determine if something is true, right? And there are things that can be used as empirical research to determine the truth of something. If it can't use empirical research, then it is not true for many reasons, right? So just so you understand real quick, it says here, empirical research is primarily used by scientists, researchers, which are us, and in the social science, medical professional, educators, and individuals in fields like business and public policy, as it relies on observed and measured data to build knowledge based on real world experiences rather than solely on theory or belief. Essentially, anyone looking to gather data through experimentation or observation to support their claims or hypotheses uses empirical research, right? Key points of research, right? Focus on observation and measurement. Empirical research gathers data through direct observation, experiments, surveys, or other methods that allow for quantifiable results. It is considered the foundation for building knowledge in various scientific fields like biology, psychology, sociology, and medicine. Testing theories and hypotheses, researchers use empirical data to test and refine existing theories or develop new ones based on evidence. So, one, we can use the evidence that we found, as I said, to see if something is true or not, right? I'm going to go on here. It says, empirical research is a method of gaining knowledge through direct or indirect observation and experiences. It is based on the belief that direct observation is the best way to measure reality and create truth about the world. This one makes sense in a second. Here are some characteristics of empirical research. Methods. Empirical research can use a variety of methods, including surveys, laboratory experiments, and artifact analyses. Purpose. Empirical research can explore, describe, or explain behaviors or phenomena in humans, animals, or the natural world. Publications. Empirical research is usually published in peer-reviewed articles by the researchers themselves. This is something you got to understand. We'll touch on that in a second. Structure. Empirical research articles typically include an abstract, introduction, method, results, conclusion, and references, right? Empirical research is the foundation of knowledge in many fields, including the natural science, social science, medical and health science, engineering and technology. For example, empirical methods are used to guide economic decisions by analyzing consumer behavior, market trends, and policy impacts, right? So as I said, this is what they use to determine truth, right? It says, yes, empirical research is considered the primary basis for determining truth in most scientific fields, as it relies on observable data and systematic experimentation to draw conclusions rather than solely relying on theoretical speculation or personal opinions. Essentially, it means establishing truth through real-world evidence gathered through observation and testing. Key points about empirical research says here, direct observation. Empirical research emphasizes collecting data through direct observation and experimentation, allowing for verifiable evidence. What is that? Verifiable evidence is documented proof that can be established as authentic through reasonable, reliable means. And it goes on to give you some examples. So it's not for them to say evidence. We have evidence. Okay, do you have verifiable evidence? And it's semantics almost. It's like law. I went to law school, which you guys know. It's the same thing. So you can say we have evidence, and to the layperson, oh, well, they got evidence. So I got evidence. So if you say, man, yeah, you stole it, I got evidence, right? But then when you go and look at the tape, it's not that actual person. No, that's not me. I was here. Oh, you thought you had evidence. And this is the case in most things. They think their evidence pertains to the truth about something because it kind of relates to it, right? It's kind of similar to it. Okay, you have evidence, fine. But is it verifiable evidence? And this is what these guys like West and all these, they don't have verifiable evidence. They have evidence. And it's not verified, meaning it has not been held to the scrutiny of academia. These people have not themselves put this information and submitted it to academia to be scrutinized by the scientific community, the academic community, the research community, the public. They haven't done that. These people just write books and they put stuff out. And when you go, as I said, you go and look at who these people are backed by, they're usually backed by the church, right? So, okay, here's the big question. Is the Bible based on verifiable evidence? No, right? Can we use empirical research to determine the historicity and truth of the Bible, right? Because they'll tell you it's historically accurate. They don't tell you it's truth. It's historically accurate. And it's not really even that, right? Some parts are. What does historically accurate mean? And a lot of you guys, you can just Google this for yourself. One, I'll give you an example. Let's just say I found a drawing or painting, right? That's dated like 1920s. And it's a picture of like a library or a school or something like that. That's supposed to be the actual picture of an actual school or town, right? And then I go and do the research and I find an actual legit picture of this library or school or what have you. And I can say, well, this painting or drawing is historically accurate because what I'm seeing here is basically the same as what we can prove from real life, from back during those times. So the historical accuracy of the Bible is when they're mentioning certain things like how people ate, how they dressed, or what have you. Some of these things you can read and say, oh, you know what, this is historically accurate because people were actually doing these things. We can prove it. None of that proves the book in its entirety. None of that proves the entire book. Understand? What is wrong with people? Okay, so the empirical research in determining the Bible, right? And looking at the Bible. But it says here, the Bible cannot be used as empirical research because it primarily relies on faith-based narratives and supernatural claims, which cannot be verified through scientific observation or experimentation. A key component of empirical research, essentially. The Bible is not designed to provide testable, observable evidence for scientific claims, making it unsuitable for empirical studies. Key points explaining why the Bible isn't empirical research. Supernatural elements. The Bible describes elements and beings beyond the natural world, like miracles and divine interventions, which cannot be studied scientifically. And that's for the people that say science backs the Bible. It backs the Bible esoterically when you understand. Interpretation challenges. Biblical text can be interpreted in various ways depending on the reader's perspective and religious beliefs, making it difficult to establish a consistent, objective understanding. Historical context. Much of the Bible was written in a different time and culture, and its historical accuracy can be debated, especially when considering modern scientific knowledge. Lack of testability. Scientific research requires hypotheses that can be tested and falsified through experiments, which is not possible with many biblical claims. And as far as its historical accuracy, it says the Bible is not considered a complete historical document by academic historians, but it can be used as a supportive document in conjunction with other historical sources. The Bible's historical accuracy varies, and it is not consistent throughout the entire work. Here are some reasons why. Purpose. The Bible's authors wrote to communicate religious or moral lessons, not to be historically accurate. Time period. The Bible's authors wrote about events that happened generations before them. Translations. The Bible has been copied and translated, which can introduce errors, which I just shown you in the Septuagint. So it goes back to what I was saying, faith. You have to have faith. And then the whole thing is, a lot of you guys are here looking for the truth, right? So if you're going to go on faith, what your religion says you should just have faith, right? Why are you here? Why are you researching this stuff, right? And if you're going to go on research, why are you going to go on research? And if you're going on research, what is going to lead you to your conclusion when you find this research, right? You're going to get the research, right? You're going to read it. It's going to sound good to you. It's going to sound correct. It's going to add up and everything like that. You're going to hear that and read that and come to your conclusion of whatever, right? So why aren't you doing that? Why are you constantly seeing the right in your face truth and ignoring it, right? So people will say, hey, well, I'm going to use my common sense to determine the truth. Common sense is out the window right now. It's gone. So what are you going by? Now, if you choose to have your faith, you shouldn't be here. Why you keep researching, keep it moving? But if you're going to choose to be on here and look at all these debates and trying to find truth and people to prove your faith, people to prove that the book is true, and you're finding all this information and the truth is right there, but you're not accepting it. You're not taking the hint. First of all, when the book told you that a man walked on water, turned water into wine, a 500-year-old man spent 100 years building an ark, right? We put all these animals on there. So animals that couldn't possibly make it to the ark, stuff like that. So there's a lot of common sense things that's right there in front of your face. The powers of Elisha, we can't prove that. You know, Elijah's powers, we can't prove that. We can't prove that Moses had the powers he had. So the stuff that's in there, which you find a bunch of dum-dums all over the internet trying to go to these places and say, hey, see this place right here? It kind of resembles what the Bible was talking about. And then people will believe it. That's not proof. That is somebody finding something similar. Not to say that, again, we're in the future here. If the stuff existed, it's easy for you to go and write about that place, right? If you understand what I'm saying. You guys got to use your mind. Be critical and look at everything that's right there. If you're going to go by the evidence, if you're going to go by the scientific method in which we do this, then accept it. And by the scientific method, by the historical method, by the academic, by the scholarly way of going about this research on the Bible does not belong here. It belongs in the fairy tale section when you really understand, right? Doesn't belong, right? And that's just something you guys got to accept. And you guys don't want to because you're seeing so much support for the religion in movies, papacy, churches, so on and so forth. But if you want to come into this realm of debating, into this realm of scholarship and go by that, then you have to go by the findings of what we have found as scholars, as researchers, scientists, so on and so forth, and what we use to determine truth. The Bible does not belong there. It doesn't qualify. And it just don't. It don't qualify to be involved in the same type of analyses as things that have been proven to be true historically. It does not qualify to be involved in those things. And this is what you guys simply don't want to accept. So you're here. You're on YouTube, you're on the internet, you're searching, trying to find this proof. And then you're not critical of what you're finding. And you need to go and look at, the people who talked against what you're looking at. So, and this whole thing with, when we're going out, we're doing research and we're looking at everything, right? When you have your findings, you have to publish those, right? This is what all these people are not telling you. All these so-called researchers that are supporting biblical texts and everything, they're not telling you that their findings have not been published. And when I say published, I mean published in academia, held up to scrutiny. So it's put up as fact, truth, proven, right? Because nowhere in academia are you going to find any researcher, and they'll tell you the opposite. But I just gave you all the proof. You're not going to find any real serious scholar and researcher who took his evidence on the Bible and submitted it, and it was held up to scrutiny by other researchers and scientists and proven true. That never fucking happened, right? Here's another thing. All this stuff as well has to be held up to public scrutiny. The public has to be given this information. You can't just walk in and view the Dead Sea Scrolls. You can't just walk in and view the fragments, I'm talking about everything. Not the stuff they put out there that's, catered for you. I'm talking about all the so-called evidence. You can't just walk into these places and review the evidence publicly. And this is what you guys have to take into account. So again, you're going to keep finding people debating. You're going to keep finding people going through all this information. But you have to remember these steps and what has been used historically over time to determine the truth. This is why most people don't believe in the book, because they understand how, the process of how this stuff is supposed to be judged, how all this evidence is supposed to be put up and used to determine a future, right? Because here's the thing. When you find something, you're either going to find something and prove 100% is true. And based on that truth, you can move forward in its research, meaning it's proven it's true. So we should find stuff to go with it, right? All the way down till we can prove that it's stopped and it's done and it's over with, right? We can't do that with the Bible. The evidence doesn't lead to truths that we can use and base new findings off that evidence, off that truth, right? If you understand, we don't have that. We're stuck. We're stuck at the manuscripts, and people choosing to believe in these manuscripts as enough to fire and further their faith. Now, if you want to take the manuscripts and take those, everything, all the wrong things with it and all the inaccuracies and so on and so forth, whatever it is, it don't have to be the manuscripts. It can be any of the so-called artifacts, and all this stuff has been proven false. So many other things date back to that time, but have absolutely no correspondence with the biblical characters that it's supposed to have correspondence with. You guys got to. So all these papyrus and tablets that's supposed to be pertaining to like Jehoiachin and all these other biblical characters, there's absolutely no proof of that. It's just what these people are saying. None of it will pass scrutiny. None of it will pass empirical research. So understand that, and let's continue. You can't go back and prove that the Jews were held captive in Egypt. You can't prove all the miracles that Elisha did or the powers of Elijah. You can't prove this stuff. We can't prove Samson. None of this stuff can be proven. Jesus walking on water, so on and so forth. And the deeper we go into that, the deeper we expose what it really is. Now, one of the things I always go back to is the fact that we can look at the accounts of, one, Jewish history, which stops at a point. And then we get into Greek history. And it's more Greek history that we see that coincides with some of the stories in the Bible than Jewish history. Because one, there is absolutely no proof of the biblical Israelites. Where are they? Where are their bodies? We don't have them, right? So just as we can go back to the time frame that they give us for, the Exodus, we can go into Egypt. We can go to the Cairo Museum right now, and we can find those bodies. We can find bodies of people from that time period in Egypt. We can't find one body of any biblical Hebrew that we can prove goes back to a biblical person in the Bible, right? So we have that. So there's two parts to this. There is a real historical part, right? And then there's this biblical part, right? And then you have faith and belief and all that just wrapped all up in one ball. And it's up to you to determine what you want to believe and choose, and then stand on that. Because as a researcher and scholar, you're going to stop at some point. And that point is when it gets to parts that we can't prove. As far as biblical manuscript, we have thousands of them, right? Different. Errors, mistakes, copies of copies. We don't, nor have we ever had the original manuscripts of the Bible. We don't have them. So it's up to you to choose what you want to believe and be truthful with yourself. Does this stuff sound right to you? Does it sound real to you? And this is where Billy Carson gets a lot of points at, because he was making valid points. And if he, came out originally sticking with these points that he made in the video, he would probably be okay instead of this Anunnaki nonsense, right? So the thing is, one, And I know, I know there's a lot of people that's upset with that because a lot of people want to believe in this Anunnaki stuff. They really want to believe in it and harp on it, but it's just not true, man. I mean, just use common sense. Any type of beings with the power to create us is not going to create us to mine gold. It's just retarded. Like the things that are put in here, if you're going to believe that, you might as well believe in Jesus Christ. You might as well just be a full Christian, right? I am not an atheist. I believe there is a creator out there. I'm not a person who don't believes in nothing. Understand? But I'm a real good critical thinker. And I think about stuff. So you got to really look at the Bible and the creation story, right? This is one of the things that they was talking about as far as the masculinity of, God or Jesus or whatever. We know Jesus, man, male, or God's masculinity. So one of the things that I'm not sure if either one of these guys was aware of, he and him is gender neutral. It's gender neutral. And it's been gender neutral and known to be gender neutral, since the 1600s. It's just, once the, King James Version and all that extra versions came out, a lot of people didn't really understand what it meant. And in the case in point, so gender neutral meaning he and him could be speaking about a man and a woman. So you think about that and you think about when it says, Jesus says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Was he talking about just men? Only men throw stones? When it says, let he who has understanding, let him understand. Is he only talking about men understanding, or is he talking about men and women? Do you understand? So it's not, he is gender neutral. It's been gender neutral for a long time. And that's where it comes from. So in the image of God created he, him, male and female created he, them. And just like Wes was saying, or I think it was Billy that was pointing out, it's just giving you this understanding of, the masculine, feminine, the oneness. And that's what it's really talking about. Not to get too deep or esoteric into it, but that will be the essence of us all. Wes was pointing to, Jesus having these feminine qualities or what have you. Remember, Jesus has long hair, even though the Bible says that a man should not have long hair. All the images you've seen of Jesus all your life is a man with long hair, when the Bible says clearly he shouldn't have long hair. But when you understand androgyny, you understand when they're showing Jesus as androgynous, they're giving you exactly what he represents, masculine and feminine energies. And this is what it's talking about in the Bible. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I do that in other videos. But Billy was on point when he's pointing out, the fact that the Bible condones slavery. Ephesians 6:5, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, just as you would obey Christ, right? No matter what Wes says, and he's trying to give you what I've heard from so many Christians, trying to explain things outside of the Bible and say that this writer during this time was speaking of this time. It's just like the moderator who rudely butted in, but he was correct on this point, saying, well, how are we supposed to understand this today? Right? It don't make sense, right? So, Billy's pointing out the fact that this is like evil stuff. Even Jesus himself, who had a chance to basically condemn slavery and say, this is wrong, don't do that. What did he say? If you knew your master's will and didn't follow it, you'll be beaten with many stripes or lashes, what have you. Instead of just saying slavery is wrong, and we having this big, giant, condemning of slavery in the Bible, which we do not have. So how to beat your slaves, how to sell your slaves, how to marry your slaves, about raping slaves, so on and so forth, right? So let's just get that out of here. But he was right in pointing that out and just pointing out the fact that the Bible tells you straight up, God created evil. It says God created evil. God sends an evil spirit on Saul, on Abimelech. God says he created evil. So you got to look at that. And then we look at the context that, God's body count is huge. Satan's body count is relatively small. And when we look at what's going on in the Bible. So it's like what's going on. This evil, narcissistic, psycho, crazy God is wreaking havoc in the Bible. And I'm sorry, and no disrespect. Anybody who's actually read the book, just read up to 2 Samuel. He's a psychopath. It's just crazy. It's just ridiculous. And then you got to look at the Israelites themselves, because one, why are these people rebelling so much? And it's one of the things in the book when you read, if these people, one, supposedly have, witness Moses part the sea, witness, the water gushing out of the mountain, the rock, what have you. Moses strikes it, what have you, cost him his life. But so much miracles they saw, these Jews, Israelites. They've seen so much, and yet they still choose not to follow God. And God is telling you, the God is telling you, you are my chosen people. This is what you got to do. And these people are steady rebelling. What is up with that? You got to pay attention that there's a separate story going on here. And I get into that in a lot of videos. But you got to look at things. And it's just a lot of things. Billy was pointing out making some points. And it's just like a lot of people are not going to pick up on these things and understand because you guys are not reading and doing critical thinking. So just thinking about, Billy was talking about Mount Sinai and going up there and, getting the 10 Commandments, what have you. What happens? Moses comes down with the 10 Commandments. They worship in the bull calf. It's all this esoteric. And then, he gives them the 10 Commandments. But forget the worshiping part. What is the 10 Commandments? What's going on here? They get the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me, right? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Blah, blah, blah. They get the 10 Commandments, right? Don't kill. Don't steal. And then God commands them to go do exactly that. Think about that. Don't kill. Don't steal. But go out and utterly destroy them, namely the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Jebusites, the Amorites. Go and kill them all, wipe them out, take their stuff, right? So he just commanded them to go and break two of the commandments right there. After he gave them the commandments, he commanded them to go break two of them, go kill these people, take their land, take their property, right? So think about that. So it's just so much more if you want to believe the outer information we have of, the Bible, the manuscripts and everything that they found that, hey, this stuff is as old as they say it is. And that just means the lie is as old. And if you understand actual history, you know what happened back then. And people just harp on that, but it never breaches proof. It never breaches that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John existed. Paul existed. This stuff actually happened. It never breaches that. You have to have faith in that. So you can go with that. Or you can go with the fact that some of this stuff is suspect, right? It don't sound right. Does this sound like a loving, forgiving God to basically condemn people to death for a religion or laws or what have you that they didn't have no clue about? So, okay, we're going to go and utterly destroy these people. Why? Because they're supposedly worshiping other gods. But if you are the one God, the only God, and there's no other gods before you, why is this a problem? Why not send an angel before these people to say, hey, I'm the angel of the Lord. This God is the real God. What you're worshiping is nothing, right? You got to critically think here because why would they put, this is supposed to be ancient times, right? Why would they put so much, emphasis and so much worship in a God that they know is doing absolutely nothing for them because this God supposedly don't exist. So it is God saying that it's a God or a gods before me or these people are worshiping gods never implies that these gods are not real or don't exist or, it doesn't really imply that. It's like, where did you get the concept of a God from if this God doesn't exist? What are we talking about here? There's no TV back then. There's no game shows, right? It's in reality TV. Where did you get the concept of a God to worship from if there's no such thing as these gods that you're worshiping, right? So think about that. And it just goes deeper into, more critical thinking and understanding that God, who is all powerful and everything, created all and everything like that, instead of appealing to these people because you're supposed to be a good, merciful God and saying, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I'm the one true God. I created you, so on and so forth. There's all this land here. And you want to give them land that's already occupied by people. It just don't make sense. And for them to get this land, okay, listen, I'm God. This is your inheritance. I'm giving you this land. This is land for you. All you got to do, though, but you got to go in there and utterly destroy these people. Kids, women, men, wipe them out. And they just take the land and take their stuff, and that's it. So even with the manuscript knowledge, the stories themselves don't add up and don't make sense and don't fit with what we would think would be true. It just don't. So it requires people actually reading the book and understanding what's being said in the Bible. The many, many contradictions that's in the book, and I didn't even get into all that because there's a bunch of them. And it's like, how are you still accepting this, right? How are you still taking this in as being actual truthful? And a lot of people are going to jump on this and just make it like, because a lot of people, you're not really seeing the scholars. If these scholars are not out here debating, they universities, and they get money and they travel and get things paid for them to say what they got to say. And there's not a lot of these guys that come on here and talk about this stuff. So even in its capacity, I appreciate Wes coming on here and just talking about his process and what he's been doing. And, I've been through the process. I've been around a lot of these guys who did this research into manuscripts and everything like that. But again, you're going to come to that same conclusion that there's a more faith to it than actual facts. The fact is that this papyrus is as old as they say it is. It was written by someone. It exists. Now, the mind would say, well, why would they write it? Why does this stuff exist? If it wasn't true. And then you got to look at everything that happened that follows the creation of Christianity and so on and so forth. And then you'll come to that conclusion of, one, the dominance of the religion. So yeah, it would be important for them to create this and write this stuff if they're going to use it for what they used it for. I mean, look at the power of Rome. They run everything, right? When you really understand, look at what the papacy was able to do. So you guys got to look at all this and take it into context, everything that was said. And formulate an opinion. So, what Wes was able to do was basically expose one of the things that Billy Carson does a lot, as I said, says things that is just not true, throws things in there that absolutely no proof to back it up. Outrageous, outlandish claims about the Anunnaki stuff and beings coming down and so on and so forth. It's just not there, man. And it's been so many people who talked about this before, but he really got exposed on here. And then his reaction has been the same, to just say, oh, well, I'm okay with that. Well, yeah, I'll accept that. And just, you'll accept that you've been putting out information and, beating people over the head with knowledge that comes from a forgery, stuff that's been proven not to be true. And it's like, okay, what else have you said or put out there that's in that same category? So now you got to go and backtrack and really think about what he's been saying and putting out over the years. And it's crazy. So, yeah, and that aspect is cool, but like it's deception on both sides to me, because what I don't want people to do, and the reason why I'm making this video is because I don't want people to come away with it just saying that Billy Carson got exposed and this guy Wes is putting out truth. And I've seen a couple of people already say thank God for Wes, and he basically reshaped my faith in Christianity. How so? The man did the same thing that Billy Carson did, except for what he talked about was basically truthful, but he gave you absolutely no proof. He didn't give you anything. He just said this manuscript and talk. And I don't understand how people come away from this with more faith when, yeah, Billy Carson crushed him on the fact that there are a bunch of messed up things in the Bible that points to it not being real as well. And what Wes did was what Christians do. He goes to explanations that is not in the Bible, right? He goes to explanations that is from his own thought process of what he believes, right? There's certain things in the book that's just outright, what? Huh? First of all, one, the notion that, people believe Jesus is coming back. Billy Carson talked about it. A lot of people believe Jesus is coming back. But when you actually read the Bible and you read in these manuscripts, he's telling these people, verily, verily, I say unto you, Son of Man, and the end of the world, and all these things shall be, and these things shall come to pass, as if he's warning them, right? If the end of time or the end of civilization is supposed to happen in the future, in our times, if we are truly in the end times, how come in the Bible Jesus is preaching to the people that it's going to happen in their time? He's warning them as if it's getting ready to happen. He says, Matthew 16:28, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Right? How long ago was that? Supposedly. And you got to ask yourself, wait a minute. Is there so many, I'm not going to go through all of them. There's so many instances where, he's given this seemingly, prophetic message or, prophecy fulfilled and stuff is getting ready to happen. He's telling these people, rarely, you're not going to taste death until the Son of Man comes. And, Did it happen already, or what am I missing? And this is the kind of things that Wes was doing as far as trying to explain Ephesians 6:5, because you can't explain the way. I don't care in what context you put it in. What? Obey the slave master as you would Christ? Enough said. That is equating the slave master to Jesus Christ. Why would we do that? You understand? So you got to understand, this just is so much on both sides that you can beat up as a, a scholar, researcher, whatever you want to call yourself. Being conscious is not what everybody thinks it is, thinks it means. But you got to understand, what's going on here, and be critical on both sides, not just on Billy Carson, who a lot of people are happy to see what happened to him in this video, so on and so forth. There's still going to be a lot of people that like him, a lot of people that follow what he puts out. For some reason, you people must believe in something, and I just don't get that. A lot of people would rather believe in something that's fairy tale, that's outside of them, than to believe in themselves. Even when the Bible and Jesus is telling you that the kingdom of heaven is within you, that you are God's, it's in there. And you can try to mix it up and put it into what context. The book is a esoteric book, plain and simple. It's about duality. It's giving you science and math. It's giving you so much hidden stuff in the book that you got to be able to break down esoterically and just be able to point out the nonsense, right? Case in point, and it's just crazy because, one, I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say this, and it's going to go over people's head, and people are just going to ignore it as if whatever, or state something that's completely contrary to what I'm saying, right? And contrary in a way that does not refute it. So basically, one, we have been told in church, Adam and Eve are the first two people created, right? But we go to Genesis 1. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them, right? It's Genesis 1. So that's the creation of man and woman, male and female. But Adam and Eve is created in Genesis 2. So if Adam and Eve was the first two people created, who are the male and female created in Genesis 1? Right? So right there, that's a problem, And even before that, we have, let there be light, and the morning is talking about morning and light before the sun was even created, right? So it's weird, night and day before the sun and the moon was created. So it's a lot of inconsistencies, nobody's ever seen God, and then Jacob seeing the face of God, and so on and so forth. There's a lot, and there's a lot to break down that's esoteric that you guys got to be able to understand for yourselves and do the research on. Also seeing in the comments and people talking about the Ethiopian Bible, right? The Abagarama Bible, right? So the Abagarama Bible, written in an Abagarama monastery, which is named after Abagarama, was a Byzantine royal who supposedly had written this book in, I think, like 2 days or something like that. So, no, the Ethiopian Bible is not the oldest Bible. A lot of people want to believe that. It is the oldest illustrated Bible, yes. Just like Codex Sinaiticus is not the oldest manuscript. It is the oldest complete manuscript. Codex Vaticanus is actually older than Codex Sinaiticus, but Codex Sinaiticus is more complete, even though we're missing pages out of Codex Sinaiticus, as you can see. And then no matter which one you look at, they both are full of errors and mistakes, and no way this can be the inspired, infallible, inerrant word of God. It's just not. It's a bunch of them. They have mistakes, errors, plain and simple. And it's in the same context as we can look at the Quran. So with the Quran, one, nobody was speaking Arabic during the time that Muhammad supposed to have lived. So how was it revealed to him in Arabic and then translated and written in Arabic? The first writings we have in Arabic is the Quran. You won't find any ancient paintings or writings or manuscripts in Arabic that predates when Muhammad supposed to have lived. That's something you got to look at. And then you look at the history that goes behind it with Abdul Malik forcing the Syrians to basically abandon Aramaic and learn the creative language of Arabic, right? Forced them to learn Arabic. And this is documented. And then when you start to go and research the words and sayings, I talked about this in previous videos, words and sayings of the Quran, they go back to Syriac Orthodox Christianity. Qorayo, which means to recite, we get Quran. That is one of the five duties of the deacons of the Syriac Orthodox Church. Talk about all this stuff. All they did was take a lot of these references and put Al, A-L, in front. Al-Hira cave, right? And then Al-Uzza, Al-Manat, Allah. So when you go back and you start doing the research and looking at these older manuscripts and texts, you can kind of decipher what's going on here, right? So one, when I talk all this stuff, people go to the same conclusion. Well, what do you believe in? Well, you don't believe in no God, you don't believe in no creator. There's a creator. There's no way around that. Just period, point blank. That is just physics. That is just science and understanding one. We do not come from here. We just don't. Where we come from, I don't know. We don't come from what they told us. Nothing they're telling us is truth. It's just not. But there's a creator. Something created us. But that something is not the biblical text, right? It's not the Abrahamic religions, right? It's not even, Buddha and, what they believe in Buddhism, what they believe in Hinduism, what they believe in, Zoroastrianism, or any of these ancient religions you want to really take on, Islam and all of them. So you got to look at it and just there is a consensus throughout the world in ancient times, and it's the same. That something was going on here. There was this sort of universal, oneness. This universal thing that everybody was following. And we can really tap into that just based on the fact that, not just the pyramids that's all over the planet, but just in every culture, there is this divineness, this speaking about the sun everywhere. Everybody's talking about the sun. The so-called pagans supposedly worship the sun. What was Constantine's religion before he converted to Christianity? So he was a pagan emperor. He believed in Sol Invictus, which is sun worship. And when you go into the historicity of all this and that, you're going to see it was all sun worship before it became what it is. But then you can go and look at what they did, basically change sun worship into Jesus, right? Talked about this. Sun walking on water, Jesus walking on water, right? You have the sun rays or the crown of thorns, and just the winter solstice, and Jesus' birth, supposed birth, which clearly he wasn't born December 25th, and so on and so forth. So there are things you guys have heard about that you consider semantics or bullshit. Some people even said, well, Satan knew this was going to happen, so he came ahead of time and put this stuff here to deceive us. Come on, there's no proof of that. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot. One, just the fact that we can see the history of the manuscripts is just all suspect. We never had the originals. We have copies of copies, as I said. When you go and trace this, even going back to Josephus, who we can't prove Josephus actually exists, and his name was supposedly a writing name or something like that. We can't prove it. It's just all of it is still textual and stuff that you gotta look at manuscripts, and you gotta really still at some point put faith into to actually, believe. And here's the biggest thing. It's the biggest part before I get out of here. History. Because there's actual proven history, and then there's biblical history. They don't match up. So for the people out there, especially the Black Hebrew Israelites who are insane, who is out here all kinds of nonsense, dressing like ninjas, what have you, saying that this is Black history. It's come on. I can understand where they get the Black history part of, but it's everybody's history, not just Black people history, as far as if you wanted to take it there. But you have to look at real proven history, that there is no doubt that multiple civilizations talked about this, documented and proven, right? So do we have any proof that any civilization outside of the Bible talk about these badass Hebrew Israelites? Because you would think if they're doing everything they was doing, I'm talking about parting the sea and the Ark of the Covenant and miracles and Elisha with flying fire chariots, fireballs and Jesus and fucking ghosts and all kinds of stuff, right? Evil spirits, everything that was going on. If all this was going on and it was happening to a people that existed and nobody fled, remember, the Jews, the Israelites were marrying with these people. They were mixing in with these people, right? None of the history, followed them. Like nobody. Okay, so Jesus, just to go a little bit further, Jesus and Lazarus, where is Lazarus at? Where's his family? Where is the people who Jesus fed with the 2 fish and the bread? right? Where are these people? Where are their accounts of these things? And they would say to you, oh, these people was illiterate. They couldn't read, they couldn't write. Everybody was just stupid, so they wrote nothing, right? And this is what they'll tell you. But go back again, looking at this history, the Greeks are the only people who we can find to fit this biblical history. We can't find any Jews, any Israelites in history that went out and conquered a people called the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. We can't find these people. Now, we go by biblical history. Biblically, they'll tell us that these tribes that God commanded the Israelites to go and wipe out were from the line of Ham, right? And Ham is supposed to be the progenitor of the black race or African people, or black people, whatever you want to say, right? So translate that, and we have God commanding the Israelites to go out and wipe out black tribes and take their stuff and take their land, right? What are the manuscripts written in? Greek. New Testament, Greek. And this is before we get the Latin, right? So a lot of this goes back to Greek history. And there's only one people who we can find that remotely resembles what we're seeing in the Old Testament as far as conquest. And that's with the Greeks. So you go and you look out and you see it was the Greeks who was going out and conquering these lands from African people, right? It was the Greeks going out and taking stuff. We have it with the conquest of Alexander. We have all these lands that's in North Africa that was being taken by the Greeks throughout this conquest. We know the Egyptian Empire stretched all the way over to Israel, was a part of the Egyptian Empire, right? Black people. So we have this whole history, and it points to one people who was going out and doing the conquering, and it in no way, we don't find in real actual history, none of these people speaking of Jews. Herodotus never mentions any Jews, the Greek historian. Doesn't talk about them. Talks about the Egyptians being black and mentions them being black. Your Bible is telling you that the people who lived in these lands, these tribes that was conquered, were black from the line of Ham, who was supposedly black. So again, you look at real history, you'll see this, and you'll see this conquest and what Billy Carson was alluding to, and what world scholars who really do this research tell you and show you that this condoning one of the conquest of African lands of black people, but in the name of religion or God, or whatever you want to say it is being condoned by the Bible. We went out and we took this land from these people. We killed them. We took everything because they was godless people. So you got to go back and look at the history, plain and simple. And we get our inception with biblical manuscripts from the Greeks, right? After that, we get copies and copies of manuscripts. This is the Torah, the Tanakh, what have you. It's written in Greek first. We do not have, because they'll tell you, hey, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. No, it was translated from Hebrew into Greek. We never had a Hebrew manuscript that predates the Septuagint Greek. We don't have it. There's a lot of so-called like little shards and all kinds of stuff that's out there that it's just up in the air as to its validity, but there is nothing hardcore, concrete, 100% that said that these shards or these little amulets that exist that supposedly have some type of biblical writings on them are 100% true. It's already come out now that the Dead Sea Scrolls are forgeries. Every single Dead Sea Scroll that's in a museum around the world has been proven to be a forgery. So do that research and understand why this has been going on for a long time. First of all, you should have known it was suspect, or it should have been suspect to you when they were selling off pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls when it first came out. It's supposed to be historical documents, big deal. How are they selling leaves? How are they selling these? Like individual pages, they're selling for thousands of dollars, right? First, red flag. So that's been proven true, false, excuse me. But you'll look at so many other so-called documents, fragments, papyrus, artifacts, or what have you, that have been proven to be forgeries for a long time. They have been found far more ancient Egyptian artifacts in Israel than any Hebrew artifacts. Way more Egyptian artifacts have been found, right? So you got to look at that. And you just got to go and trace everything back through history and see its inception. Whoever smelt it, dealt it, right? Remember that phrase? And it goes back to the Greeks. There's a man, Dr. Joseph Yehuda, wrote a book called Hebrew is Greek. And in his book, he proves that the Hebrew and Arabic languages were created by the Greeks. Comes from the Greek languages, right? Research this stuff for yourself. And it's so much, people debate this and that. If you know how to read languages, you understand what he's saying. And he's proven his point as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that this was written should give you a lot of insight as to what could have possibly happened when you look at history. Be critical. We had the Greeks come out, give us this, whole Septuagint, right? And then we have Rome come and conquer the Greeks, right? And then they take on this whole biblical context. Because you have to look at Roman history. I mean, you got the Caesars and everything Rome was doing before this. Now, all of a sudden, you conquer the Greeks, and then now you just pick up their religion, right? You follow it. So now we're going to just, Constantine converts, and then now we have the New Testament. What's going on here? And you got to look at all this and be critical of it. And then again, when we have the Greek manuscripts with the codices. And, there's a bunch of codices. We talk about Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Alexandrinus, Ephraim Rescriptum, and what have you. There's a bunch of codices. And it's like, we have Latin manuscripts and stuff that's written in Latin. And for a long time, it just was so much. And you got to think about why was it so many Bibles? There's a bunch of Bibles before the King James Version, right? It's outside of Rome. And we got to look at that. John Huss and John Merriman and so on and so forth. And, the Bishop's Bible, the Great Bible, and everything like that. And the history that surrounds those as well. And all of this should just give you a better understanding of what we're dealing with here and how none of this stuff can be true. And where is God in all this? As far as we read in the book, he is active. He is doing things, intervening, so on and so forth. Then all of a sudden in real time, when we end this thing, it's nothing happening. We're not seeing God. We're seeing the works of men, right? So you got to look at that. And there's this so-called explanation with all this. And none of this stuff to a critical thinking person works. None of it fits. So a lot of people are not capable of critically thinking and being critical of what they research or what have you, because a lot of people just want to know what the fuck is going on. They are filled with this, this energy. People have emotions and so much has been tied up into this. And people have these feelings, that they want to be validated. So they'll go anywhere and follow whatever validates those feelings. And it'll be, for the most part, wrong. You got to look within yourself. You got to do the actual research, and then you'll come to the truth. There's a reason behind all of this that is going to escape most of you. And I talk about it in my society, right? I talk about it in my groups. And one, you got to look at the mythologies, right? I talk to my group about this a lot. So one, what mythologies? We have ancient Egyptian mythology, right? So we have the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, and I'm going into this mystery schools and they're teaching what, right? We know what, Thales talked about going in, Pythagoras, going into the mystery schools, learning this stuff from the ancient Egyptians, right? All this information. And then we have the Greeks who wanted the Egyptian empire so bad. Persians came in, conquered, Greeks conquered the Persians. They don't turn Egypt over to the Egyptians after they take it from the Persians. Think about that. So we've been helping you build up and do all these things, and you've been living with us and so on and so forth. Where were you in our time of need? You let us get conquered. You conquered the people who conquered us, yet you did not return the land to its rightful owner. Why? Right? So all this war and conquest Alexander went through, he dies, and you have the whole war of the Diadochi, everything that happens, and the land is split up, all this stuff going on, and then all of it comes to a point to where we get religion, biblical texts, the Old Testament, Torah, what? So you conquered these Egyptians just to give us Jewish writings? Huh? That don't make sense. And what's going on here? So it's a lot that's tied up with that. So, excuse me, you got to think about it. All this conquest, all this war, people dying, everything, just to give you a biblical text, right? This happens. Then we have with the Romans, as I said before, all the conquest that Rome did, them basically almost taking over the world, and all of that, the Caesars and the history and everything, so on and so forth, all of that to give us the New Testament, to give us Christianity, right? And then it's like ancient Egyptian mythology is told to you in mythologies, stories, right? We have Greek mythology, which parallels with the mythologies of the Old Testament, right? We've talked about this before. Eve and the apple, right? Who is this? Pandora's box, the same type of situation. Deucalion and Pharaoh, who is that? Noah's Ark, flood story, right? Hercules, Samson, right? God, Zeus, Jesus, Zeus, right? Same type of situation. Then people look at this and say, well, wait a minute. The Bible was way before Greek mythology. Well, we have manuscripts that predate anything biblical that we ever had. We have Homer's Odyssey, we have the Iliad, which predates any biblical text that we have. We have actual Greek mythology texts that predate this stuff, or stories, whatever you want to call it. The mythologies, even, of course, of the ancient Egyptians predate anything biblical. So we have these stories being told, Greek, ancient Egyptian, the Roman mythology, which is piggybacking off of both. And then this stuff is being told to us in mythology. So all this conquest and war to give us a religion of mythologies that is basically parables, right? So why? And this is what you have to think about and understand why things are being done and taught to you in a certain way. And again, something I talk about within my society, and it's information that you're going to come to the conclusion of understanding. One, none of this stuff can be told outright, right? This is what you're going to come away with. We can't just tell you what it is because it's not done. It's never been done that way. It can't be done that way because we can't take away choice. And I'm not going to get into it. It's so much deep when you really understand the yin yang, right? Balance, right? Just for people who understand, it's balance. Everything is about that. Darkness, light, right? Masculine, feminine. And there's a lot wrapped up into that to get to this oneness. Just to talk about the matrix, if you don't follow me, got a whole thing on the matrix. But understand the oracle, right? The oracle was black, symbolizing what? Yin, right? Feminine, black, negative energy, right? Yin. You have the yang, which would be this light or white, positive, masculine energy. Yin, yang. In the Matrix, the yin was the oracle, who was a black woman. What did she tell you her job was? To unbalance things, right? And then you had the architect, right? A white guy symbolizing the yang. His job was to keep things in order. Balance is what they needed, right? Keep things in order. Positive, keep things running the way it's supposed to go. And her job was to imbalance, but in the end, they needed to really come together to become, the one which Neo represented. And there's a lot to all that, but you have to understand that these things are not just movies. It's not just saying. There is an esoteric energy out here of understanding that you must come under its umbrella and understand what's being said to you, because it can't be taught to you. It has to be esoteric. Rappers are out here talking about Satan and showing you satanic rituals and so on and so forth that you believe is satanic. We have so much wrapped up in Satanism to scare you away from the truth. Voodoo, witchcraft, all of it. You go back and look at real history, what did they do? They got rid of the ancient ways. So, it went from spirituality, right? Nature, spiritual, to alchemy, to witchcraft, voodoo, right? Which these things was just normal spiritual practices, right? So, as I said before, paganism, being called a pagan is a derogatory term that Rome made up that basically means you don't believe in what we believe. You believe in a bunch of stupid false gods. That's what paganism means. And so people walk around calling themselves pagan. I wouldn't want to call myself that. So you got to understand, these are people who just believed in nature and what reality really is based off in the power of the sun and the energy, and understanding that none of this stuff exists without it, right? Plain and simple. So you got to understand that even still, because there's a universal understanding that you must understand, that the so-called most evilest, wickedest man on the planet talked about, and that's Aleister Crowley. Crowley told you straight up, hey, there's a universal understanding. One, you guys have to accept this deception. It must be shown to you, right? And this is what's going on. You're being shown and told everything that is to come, that is going to happen, because it must be done this way. It's always been done this way. You have to understand the why. I know the why. And I have to esoterically speak it to you. Now, I would like to believe, to be honest, because he's a brother, Billy Carson. I would like to believe that this is what he's doing. But it's not, because I'm trying to figure it out if it is, because when I look at the avenues of his information and where it's going, I just don't see that. But it could be there. It could be there. I just don't have time to really dig into it. But you guys got to understand, this stuff must be taught the way it's been taught. It's just that way. It's just how you got to learn. Even in any secret society that you may join, this is the way, right? This is the way. It's really hard to grasp until you get to that point. And you got to understand, again, look at history. Look at the mythologies of ancient Egypt, the mythologies of Greek mythology, the mythologies of Roman mythology, and then throughout the world. Because you have it with Zoroastrianism, you have it with Hinduism, you have it in every major religion. There is this, mythology that is all esoteric, that's giving you the understanding of you and the power within you, plain and simple. So again, let me get out of here with this. You guys got to figure out what you want to do and what you want to follow. The answer is everywhere. It's all out here. It's a bunch of information. You guys just choose to follow what's trending. And that's what social media is about. Hey, look at this. They're giving you so many things. You don't even understand the algorithm is controlling your thinking and pointing you in directions where you probably shouldn't be. And you're not doing real research, because a lot of people don't know how to do it. The real powerful scholars are gone. It's not many of us left. There's not many people pointing you in the right direction in truth. And then a lot of you guys can't see it when it's right in front of your face, because everybody is looking at something else based on the programming that is being put out there. And it's programming you to choose the wrong stuff, and it just is what it is. You have to come into the understanding of what you want, what's good for you. And if that's Christianity, if that's Judaism, if that's Islam, if that's what you want, then that's what you want. Just, keep it about your faith. Don't try to bring it into the realm of truth and, what's proven. Just say, I have faith and I believe in this and I choose to believe in this. This has worked for me and this is what I choose to believe, so on and so forth, and leave it at that. Don't jump on social media. Don't jump in people's faces trying to throw what you believe in faith as being truthfully proven when it's not. So whether you realize it or not, I've given you everything. Everybody has been doing research. You guys have been looking on the internet, reading books for years and years and years, running into the same information. Almost everything I touched on in this video, I've talked about in previous videos. So people who's followed me for years, they heard all this stuff before. But so many new people that's, into Wes and into Billy Carson, who have no clue about my information. So a lot of this stuff would probably be new for some of you guys, but I hope it helps someone understand what's going on. But whether you realize it or not, I'm giving you everything in this one video. You might have to go back and watch, because while you're going to go online, you're going to research, and you're going to find scholars and researchers who says, yes, there is proof of this. Yes, there's proof of Jesus Christ. There's evidence for this. There's evidence for that. But they are not going to give you the course of research that they should be using to prove what they're saying is true, which is empirical research, empirical evidence, right? They should have verifiable evidence. They're not going to give you any of that. They're not going to give you their research or what they're talking about and it being, sent to academia and being scrutinized by multiple scholars and scientists and researchers. It being open to the public for scrutiny. They're not going to give you any of that or prove any of the information they're giving you was done that way. What they're giving you really is their opinion, their evidence, which evidence isn't proof. It's not truth. So you have to understand and accept that wherever you're going out, everybody get caught up in this jargon. Oh, primary sources. Primary sources is a part of it, but it's not the end all be all. It doesn't qualify under empirical research. Information that has been submitted to academia proven true by multiple scholars, open to the public for scrutiny. So basically, when you know something true, you're cocky, right? You know it's true. You've proven it. Go ahead, test it out. You know it's real. So you're not worried about that. Why are they? Why are they worried about their information that they're not submitting it to academia and making sure that it is held under the highest scrutiny by scholars who are in the field, who really do this? And even better than that, the public, right? Public researchers are the best. I follow a lot of them. And public researchers give us the best truth. It's public researchers who are out there, independent researchers who are out there giving you the truth about vaccines and medicines and so on and so forth. Probably shouldn't have said that V word, but they're out there giving you the truth about all this stuff. And this is how we're coming into this information. And you got to understand it must be done this way. And it's a lot more to it. But you look at Wes, and here's the guy, as I said before, he knows a lot, intelligent guy who's into manuscripts and understanding his knowledge and what have you. But as he well knows, his information has not been held up to scientific scrutiny, right? Public scrutiny. It is not a part of empirical research. These manuscripts are highly debated. Everything involving Christ or involving biblical history is highly debated. Something that is true is not debated. We don't have to go and debate things that are true and have been proven true. So ask yourself, why have we been debating this subject for centuries, for far too long, for something to what we see the backing of it by, entertainment, television, the churches, the papacy, what have you, all this backing we see that leads people to believe this stuff is true. We're getting all this, but in absolute truth, it hasn't been proven true. This stuff is just here to deceive you. It's not true at all. And it's common sense, really, but I'm not going to be that disrespectful, but it is. So, do your research. You guys are wasting so much time, and you have to come to a conclusion at some point and move forward. You're wasting so much time. There is just a plethora. There's so much more information above this that is going to blow your minds and really get you more into yourself when you understand power, energy, consciousness, and what the Bible is really speaking to. And people, oh, you're anti-Christian and this and that, and you're just a Bible hater. And the Bible is one of the greatest books ever written. Hands down, period, point blank. And if you know me, you know that about me. I always say that. It is one of the greatest books. It is a marvel. It is unbelievable when you really begin to understand of how this was put together and what it really is. And the more you keep studying this fairy tale stories and this history that can't be proven inside of this fairy tale story, the more time you waste in getting to the truth and real, right knowledge that exists within you. I'm not talking about anything spooky and spiritual. It literally is in you. And it's crazy once you really break it down and understand what the ancient Egyptians was talking about and why they hid such things. It's all esoteric. The Bible was telling you that as well. Jesus is giving you all the clues, but you choose to just follow a man who don't exist instead of following yourself. It's crazy. So you're missing out on a lot. So, Billy Carson is trying to sell you books. He's trying to sell you videos or what have you based on this whole made up Anunnaki thing that just people don't really want to believe the Bible. One, especially because the whole sin part, because we like sinning. And Islam, we ain't that extreme. We're not jumping into that. And we're not dressed like no damn ninjas for Hebrews. So it's like, oh, yeah, Billy Carson is on this whole Anunnaki thing. It sounds cool. It sounds exciting, right? But it's bullshit. It's just as much bullshit as the rest, right? There's not even nothing really esoteric in it that's going to lead you somewhere. It's nonsense. So Billy has been raking in cash and jumping on all these platforms and everything like that, doing these things. It is what it is. There's an element of entertainment to it that people like and people want to pay for and contribute to what they like. That's on them. I don't really want to knock his hustle on as far as that. But if you're looking for truth, that's not where you want to be. Wes as well. Looking for truth, you don't want to be relying on biblical manuscripts that's going to take you no further than that. That is it. It's just a manuscript now. And what's next? Where are we going? Because after that, there's nothing else. It's just proof that this is old, that somebody wrote it. What it says, most of you can't read. And what it says can't be proven to be true. So you're stuck. Game over. How are you going to move forward from that? You're going to allow that to just justify your faith moving forward? Then that's something you have to live with or what have you. But you're leaving out so much knowledge and information. It's just so much better. And especially if you're Black and just understanding, the truth about our history and everything like that. A lot more to it. But this video is already way longer than I thought it was going to be. But real quick, Merkabah Scholar Society members, make sure you guys check your email. Website is going up. App is almost done. Been busy, but I had to do this because I'm just waiting on a couple things to pan out real fast as far as some coding I'm getting help with. But the app will be out first before the website. So I sent you guys emails. So I've been talking about the app, but the website is being done as well. So we're going to have the app and our website is going to be done. So you can actually go to merkabahacademy.com or merkabahscholarsociety.com, I should say, and you'll see the coming soon and all that. So that's up. We're getting there. So keep being patient. We'll have our next meeting soon. I'll send out emails. A lot of stuff going on, but stay busy, stay studying. Thanks for taking the time to watch. All the new people, everybody that's first time seeing my videos. I have a lot. Appreciate you guys. Comments and support. A lot of people added me about this whole thing. A lot of people sent me emails about it. And took a little while to put out the video, but I wanted to make sure I was giving you this information correctly so you can understand. So thanks for taking the time to watch. See you guys next video.